find the ultimate theory of everything.
Professor Stephen Hawking, whose book A Brief History of Time changed our view of the universe, dies at the age of 76.
I'm in Salisbury this morning as Russia defies a midnight deadline from the Prime Minister to explain the attack on a former double agent. The Russian embassy says it wants samples of the nerve agent before it gives an official response. Well, Theresa May warns sanctions could follow if no reply came. We'll be live in Downing Street, where Theresa May will chair a meeting of the National Security Council. Meanwhile, here in Salisbury, the police continue to investigate just how Sergei Skripal and his daughter came into contact with a deadly chemical weapon. We'll be live here in Salisbury throughout the morning as UK relations with Russia reach their lowest level in years.
Also on today's programme, Donald Trump faces an electoral setback after sacking his chief diplomat. In sports, Manchester United crash out in the Champions League, beaten 2-1 by Sevilla. At 22, we'll be looking through the papers, today with journalist Martin Daubney and Adisha. A very good morning, you're watching Sunrise, I'm Jonathan Samuels. We start this morning with the loss of one of the great minds of modern science after the death of Professor Stephen Hawking at the age of 76. His book, A Brief History of Time, popularised theories about the Big Bang and black holes and sold more than 10 million copies around the world. Diagnosed with motor neurone disease at 21, he was initially given just 2 years to live. But of course, he defied the odds to become one of the most recognisable and respected scientific personalities of the last century. Well, in a statement overnight, Professor Hawking's children called him an extraordinary man whose work and legacy will live on for many years. Joe Tidey has been looking back at his remarkable life.
Professor Stephen Hawking managed to be the unusual combination of both celebrated academic and celebrity. His incredible mind and achievements as a theoretical physicist challenged the world of science and captured the imagination of the public. But he will also be remembered for the way he did all of this whilst dealing with a debilitating condition.
I have motor neuron disease, a progressive condition that reduces my powers of movement, but does not affect my ability to feel and think, or at least, so I think.
He was diagnosed with the condition at 21 and given just 2 years to live. But he ignored that bleak prognosis, continuing his studies at Cambridge University and marrying Jane Wilde in 1965, an event he described as a turning point in his life. They had 3 children together, but split in 1991, reportedly because of the pressures put on him by his illness and his fame. For many years he held the position of Cambridge University's Lucasian Professor of Mathematics, a post originally held by Sir Isaac Newton. But a bout of pneumonia in 1985 left him unable to speak.
For me, computers make the difference between being a leading world scientist and being unable to do anything.
In 1988, he published what became his most famous work, A Brief History of Time. It sold more than 10 million copies and stayed on the Sunday Times bestseller list for 4.5 years. His fame meant that Stephen Hawking often appeared as himself on various television programmes.
Professor Hawking, it's an honour and a privilege to meet you, sir.
I know.
He described a cameo in The Simpsons as one of his proudest moments.
Your theory of a donut-shaped universe is intriguing. Over.
In 2014, his life as a young academic was captured in an Oscar-winning film.
My name is Stephen Hawking.
It's American.
Is that a problem?
As well as pushing the boundaries of science, he pushed the boundaries of what his body would allow him to do. On his 60th birthday, he achieved his dream of flying in a hot air balloon.
This is something I have always wanted to do. In my darkest hour, the balloon was a symbol of hope.
5 years later, he went further and higher and became the first quadriplegic to float in zero gravity.
I could have gone on and on. Space, here I come.
He was a man of sharp wit, often using it to explain complicated scientific theories, and he never let his computerized voice ruin an opportunity for a joke. On being awarded the Albert Medal by Prince Philip, he remarked, In 1995, he remarried. His new wife was his nurse, Elaine Mason. Most recently, Professor Hawking lent his voice to campaigning for NHS funding. He also warned of the potential dangers of artificial intelligence. Despite his incredible discoveries around black holes and relativity, he once said, "It wouldn't be much of a universe if it wasn't home to the people you love." His family say he died peacefully at home, and they'll miss him forever.